Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Inchstones podcast. When I started this in January, I had someone just in the community of my town say, gosh, do you think you'll ever have enough episodes? Like, how do you meet people to do all this? How would you ever get to more than 25, 30 episodes? And I'm proud to announce that episode 40 is with my two fellow autism mom friends that I met on Instagram. Kathy and Erica both have vulnerably shared their story of their own children with profound autism, the twists, curveballs, and highest of highs, lowest of lows in parallel fashion to me, but in their own specific, unique way. And the support that we started to realize that we all were finding within our own followers and communities landed us here today. So Kathy and Erica, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us, Sarah.
Absolutely. So excited.
And Kathy, I must mention, you are also a licensed professional counselor and therapist too. So this plays in right to my wheelhouse because as someone who uses BetterHelp, not sponsored by them, but I am deeply therapized. I believe social media is positive for this niche group that we fall in, profound autism moms. Could you guys talk to me more about that and what your thoughts are on it?
Yeah. Erica, do you want to start?
Do you want me to start?
You decide.
Okay. So yeah, when I had Lev, a lot of my friends were having babies at the same time. And as he was getting bigger, my motherhood journey looked a lot different than my friends. And at first I thought, maybe this is just really hard, like he's just like a little bit of a harder baby, and you read everything on Google, you go down the Google rabbit holes and everything reassures you that every child is different and it's true. Right. And I was a first time mom and it was during the pandemic. So, there was just all these factors out there. And then, with every pediatrician appointment, it became a little bit more obvious, a little clearer what was going on. And it was isolating in the sense that I didn't feel like I had other moms that knew what I was going through.
Let alone the village of your moms that were also having kids too. They didn't even know because they weren't seeing you.
Right. We weren't around each other a lot. And when you try to explain to someone, they're not pointing. They're not answering to their name. It's people don't understand. They don't understand. What do you mean? And isn't there something you can do? You can teach that skill, right? And I've been met with so much love from people who don't have children, who are neurodivergent. I have family and very loving friends, but it was isolating. And I went to social media and I started to follow some moms who trailblazed this.
Who were some of the first that you followed? Because I'd love for us to all share.
Okay. So No.
Okay.
Matt and I came together from both sharing. Because we were sharing is how we came together. I actually, in the beginning, was not ready to go down the, autism mom, social media. I just wasn't sure. That it makes it very, very real. And I think I was afraid of what I would see because every child is so different. And that can be a little bit scary, is getting a glimpse into other people's lives and not knowing, is this what Lev's future looks like? Or it can be a really hopeful place to be. Wow, look at them, and thriving or coming out the other side joyful. I followed Kate Swenson from Find Cooper's Voice. And that was because of my mom. Wow. My mom actually, yes, she had started following before autism ever entered our world.
Wow.
She saw the viral
same.
video.
I saw the viral video too.
Yeah. And I don't even know if I've ever seen it, to be honest. I don't think I've seen the viral video. My mom, or she's in the car upset.
She's in the car. I think she's going to work or coming back from a work something and talking about, she bears all, and it's beautiful. It's honestly, it's heartbreakingly and beautiful.
So my mom, when we started noticing autistic traits in Lev, and we were pretty sure we were going to get a diagnosis, she was like, you need to follow Kate. And so I went to that page and started just kind of exploring and feeling like, okay, so I'm definitely not alone. There's this whole community out there. And then the more I followed her and I started to get more on Instagram, and my mom insisted that I go to Kate Swenson's Caregiver retreat.
Amazing.
Because it happened to be in South Hill, Virginia, and I'm in Virginia. So it was only a few hours from us. And she was like, I'm going to go with you, and you're going to go to the retreat, and I'm going to keep the baby.
I'm interviewing your mom next, okay? I'm interviewing your mom.
Good.
I'm not kidding you. The next episode is Erica and Erica's mom.
Yeah, mom's amazing. She's definitely when wonderful. I say I had felt isolated, it's not because of my own family or my own circle of support. I'm very lucky. It was more needing that camaraderie with other autism moms.
Yep.
So yeah, I went to the retreat, and that is where I met people like Tara Reynolds with Peace Love Autism and Lauren Flack with Channing's Joy and Tiara Cariello. So amazing moms who have trailblazed, like they've did this before me and has been
Yeah.
really inspiring. And so that was my start. And then the more I followed those pages, I got braver and braver and felt like I'm going to share my story. And it's therapeutic, and it's the connection piece is worth so much more than like any troll like can.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you get the trolls, but like the connection, it know how to word it. Like it
Just like outweighs it, right? Like
yes, that's what I'm looking for. It outweighs any
it.
troll
It's like,
comment I've ever gotten. Like, there's so many connections.
Yeah. I think I always say, like, the troll comments, I always go, if you do not have skin in the exact game that I'm playing, your comment is so obsolete and is so static to me that it's just like, cool. The good news is I don't get to wake up as you in the morning,
Yeah.
you know?
It's
So
just that, what Brene Brown often references, right? The man in the
the man in
arena.
the arena.
There's going to be critics no matter what we do, and so that's sort of a life philosophy that I feel like I
Totally.
go to often, especially kind of trying to grow a community on social media, because when you post something, you have no idea where it's going to land. You have no idea.
Like, we have no idea. There's no code, right?
Absolutely.
Well, then how did you land? What was the inflection point for you realizing that this was a place of love, acceptance, and wow, social media has such a silver lining of good?
I am 42 as well. And I feel like, I didn't grow up with social media. It wasn't something, my husband and I joke often, like we met sort of like when Facebook, you could only get Facebook if you were like a college student. It was like a cool thing to have. But social media has never really played a big part of my life. But about a year and a half ago, I wondered like what would happen? What would happen if I started to share a little bit more of our story? And it's still something that I'm trying to kind of figure out. There are so many pieces to this, right? Trying to honor like Jacob's dignity. He's our non-speaking son with autism, high support needs. Trying, how much am I allowed to share, that doesn't sort of like, upset others like in my world that are also impacted. We're a family, we're all connected. It's a system. So still kind of trying to figure a lot of that piece out. But what I knew I wanted to talk about specifically on my Instagram was like the mothering part. Because I'm the mom, right, in this, right? Like, I'm not talking about the dad side. I'm not talking about the sibling side. I'm not talking on behalf of Jacob. I'm talking about what is it like to be a mom. And I have a very different perspective than Erica in that Jacob is our youngest, right? So I've had two mothering journeys that have looked very differently. And when we welcomed Jacob into our family, I just assumed that it was going to be just like big brother and big sister. And even when we got the diagnosis, I was stubborn. I was like, you know what? Autism is not going to come in here and change my world. We have our community, we have our friends, we're active in our neighborhoods, like autism is not going to win. And I almost refused to find other like autism friends. I was like, I already have my friends. Like
I was very similar. Yeah.
And so I kind of didn't know. And there was something about a year and a half ago, March of 2023, March of 2024, where I just started to wonder, I think I had surrendered to the idea that parenting Jacob was going to be different. Maybe I could have a different perspective, right? That it wasn't about just loss, that it could also be about gain. And so what do I have to gain from this experience? What can all of us as a family have to gain if we lean into this a little bit more? And so I started kind of sharing on Instagram, and I was trying to be really intentional with connecting with other moms. And I must have seen a reel that Erica had posted about lead. And I feel like we just kind of started following each other. And then we just started sending kind of messages back and forth, really sparingly in the beginning. And I don't know, Erica, like, when do you think it shifted for us? Like
you posting something about an autism mom meetup. You had like made a flyer or something. Maybe I saw it on your stories.
Yeah.
And even though we had chatted a little bit here and there before that, I reached out to you just kind of asking how you were coordinating that. Like, what was your turnout like? Just curiosity. I had been to a couple locally here, but I didn't host any. And I was just kind of interested in how she did that and what that looked like for her. And then we just kind of started sending messages back and forth, I think, starting there. And you shared your experience with going, and like, I think one person showed up. So I was like, okay, so that's normal. Like, you know, it's not like because I've seen other accounts where like they do a meetup and there's a mom who, I mean, she has to limit it. Like she, like out in California, you know, she is in a bigger city, you know, like there's only 20 slots available or something because it's just too big, you know? And I'm like, I don't think I have that problem. Maybe one day. But I wanted to know how that was going for another autism mom, you know, navigating, meeting up with other autism moms in person. And it's just something that I think was an interest for me and Kat right from the beginning. And I think our friendship has grown from there with that same thing in mind. Like she and I still are constantly talking about how can we get moms together? How can we support the autism community? What do we want to do to give back to the autism community and the caregivers specifically?
Totally.
So that's been a lot of conversations that Kat and I have.
I think that the idea of we've never needed community more, right? So, and then utilizing the fact that we're in this global village and we have access to social media. When you're conscious from a place of deep knowing, like I'm so deeply aligned with like the intuition of mothers in situations like us. I really believe, and I'm starting to think more and more that like evolutionary biology, primal wiring, like mother's intuition is actually real scientific data.
Absolutely.
And I think that in the last, probably since all of us have, even from before we had our children, before you had Lev, before you had Jacob, before I had Millie, that was something that was still around, but wasn't really talked about. I didn't go into motherhood thinking about my primal motherhood intuition. And I think in sharing about how you both found each other and how others find women like us that do share, it does go down to this like deep knowledge of, and deep intuition and sort of this gut feeling of I'm not alone. I can do this with someone else is mirroring back a similar experience. I was actually talking to someone who was doing her own research for a TED Talk she gave. And she said, elephants, when a mother loses a baby elephant or a baby elephant is injured, the other female elephants surround her until she's better. When I heard that, I mean, I get chills just saying it again. We're surrounding each other.
Yeah. That's what it can be, right? And I think, you know, you bring up the point of this global village. And I think that some of the more vulnerable conversations between Eric and I'm not going to go into great detail because her, you know, something that I've shared with her is like, I think there are conversations that we can have online. And then I think there are some conversations that just do better face to face, right? Like,
no, I couldn't agree more.
There are some private conversations where we've had where we're like, probably start the conversation with, am I allowed to say this? Am I allowed that I actually don't love this aspect of it? Am I allowed to say, I actually see it much differently, even within this global community?
Absolutely.
So vast, right? And that's kind of what Erica, I think, was referencing in the beginning is like, you know, this diagnosis of autism can look so differently. And you know, like I've got moms in my local area here in my backyard that are also raising kids with autism, but they're like in college. And I'm not sure that Jacob will ever be a college student. You know, like their children are dating and getting married. And I don't know, you know, and I never want to limit Jacob. I literally, when I say I don't know, I have no idea
in the best of ways, right?
Yeah. But also like, you know, high support needs it feels complicated. It feels heavy. It feels nuanced, right? And so much of that is true, I think, just about the autism community in general. And so what I feel like has been the biggest benefit of being connected on social media is you kind of get an idea of like, okay, who really understands this kind of parenting, right? Even within this community that we all belong to, and it can still be so different.
Listen, the words of like the 2 C words that have popped up for me all year, like curiosity and complexity. Right? Staying curious to another situation with the exact same quote unquote label or child with autism is never going to, again, go back to mothers. I will never be able to speak about the best way to parent and mother Jacob than you will, Kat.
Sure.
And same with Lev for you, Erica. Like, but what I can do in this community of deep support in like a very niche way of finding those people is saying, girl, I see you. I mean, yesterday I took the kids to the city and I mean, my son, Mac was so happy at the splash pad. And I always put him in neon when we're in the city because I have to see him. You know, I would make sure I don't lose him. And I lost it. I started bawling because he pummeled into some kids that were honestly his same age. It wasn't even like they were smaller. But I just realized over and over again that the grief and the not isolating, getting out there, coming back, realizing the support needs of mine, sharing about it online, having someone go, God, I did that last weekend too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like it creates this like beautifully glistening protective balm of moms. And I will support and like fight to the death for like these communities on social media. I really will, because I think it's allowing people to keep on keeping on and no, there's no alternative.
Yeah. And one of the reasons that I started sharing was for others to feel seen and validated that these feelings are real. And something Kat and I talk about a lot is it's not just autism. It's autism and these other things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, that's been really important as like a theme for me and for Kat too. I think sharing, like you can feel two things at once. You can be really, really, really heartbroken that your child cannot be with you. They are in pain and they can't tell you what hurts. That is heartbreaking.
Heartbreaking.
And it is not ableist.
No.
You say, this breaks
my
heart.
Mm-hmm.
It is a loving parent. A loving parent. No parent is like, I want my child to struggle more.
Right.
That sounds like a great idea. No, but I can say that and also say, I do not wish to change my child's neurotype.
Correct.
I can think autism is beautiful and the way Lev's mind works, and Axel too. I can think that that's beautiful and fully embrace them for who they are and be heartbroken about some things.
I agree. I mean, I couldn't agree more.
Depleted. Those are all true. And I felt like that's where my voice was needed on social media, because I saw some accounts being able to do that, but I have felt a lot on social media like there's a lot of you're one way or the other. It's like, and you'll see it around, in April with Autism Awareness Month, I see a lot of the, can we stop fighting? I put a post out about it. Like you can think that autism is a superpower, or you can think that it is a disability, like we're all in this together. But what if it's both?
Mm-hmm.
And why do we have to choose? And I get really tired of that in our community, where it's like, if you're not this full blown, like, we see autism as this great superpower, beautiful thing, then you are ableist and you want to cure your child of their autism. Mm-hmm. Or if you talk about wanting to support your child and find ways to reduce their struggles and to help them get over some of these things or get through some of these things, then you don't embrace them. And I'm really tired of it.
Do you think, though, that was a societal conditioning of the DSM opening up the category to create space for more milder forms of autism? Because I do believe that the most highest support needs children with classic autism that is diagnosed before 3 is not the same autism as the kid that goes to college and asks for a dimmer light lit dorm room. I personally do not see those the same. Now it's the same. It's going to have the same category. Their file is going to say F.84, just like mine. And I would never say to a mom, because I don't believe this, that your struggle is less than mine, that your mothering journey has been less of a struggle, right? But I do think that by not dividing those from a medical point of view, it becomes erasure. I really believe that. I believe that we are erasing the most fragile autistic children. That's my opinion on it, because it makes me feel like we have to go, well, don't talk about that.
Yeah. I think there needs to be more specifics like autism and apraxia. Like that needs to be more understood than when we use autism as this umbrella. Yes, these children can be, so vastly different. Now, I can't say that children who have more severe autistic traits before age 2 don't go on to do amazing things. I have heard plenty of stories from parents.
Totally.
I never would have thought, and they tell you, and it sounds like Lev. It sounds like my kid, and they are in college and they're driving and they're playing soccer. And we don't know, like Kat said, there's no crystal ball. So I don't know that I can say it's all kids who have this profile from this age, because it seems like it can change. I don't know. But I do agree as far as like the umbrella autism diagnosis without more understanding of like apraxia and dyspraxia and things like that. Like Kat and I talk about a lot autism.
Yeah, these like it's like autism. And
you have to understand that if they have these other things going on, I'm not even talking about autism anymore.
Exactly.
And that's where I get angry. Is like, I'm not trying to change the neurotype, but I want my kid to be able to self-advocate.
Yeah.
And There's a difference.
There is. But again, it also goes back to what you were saying before. I believe that the three of us model online that we can hold space for the vastly different emotions that rise up in women, because these are our kids.
Yes.
Like, these are our children. And around April, it's like people are, you're to this or don't share that, or it's all supposed to be, it's all we are the world, neurodiversity. I love neurodiversity. I freaking love it. I think that the best companies that ever take off are because they embrace it. Right.
One of beliefs that when I started sharing about our personal experience raising a kid like Jacob was I set out with this idea that I was just going to believe every mom.
Yeah.
That it irritated me. And honestly, it sometimes offended me when people would question, like, my words or my lived experience, and I just set out that I was, and I think about some of the moms that we follow, right? Where if Mercedes from Autism Out Loud says my daughter can't, I believe her.
You
right?
believe her. I believe moms. I do.
If Lauren Flack says Channing can't, I believe her. And my job is not to offer a solution.
Mm-mm.
My job is not to tell her that she's wrong. And my job is not to try to sell her a supplement or a remedy or, that's not my job. My job is just to stand right there alongside her
and witness.
Yeah. And say I believe you. That sounds really hard. Sounds really amazing. Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Totally.
Oh man, I'm heartbroken too. Right? That's it. I just believe the mom. And so I feel sharing online has kind of brought about, there are some people who don't believe what I say, and it can be so irritating. And I think that's where we start to see some of the divide kind of within this community that I think overall my experience has been pretty positive, but it also, that's kind of what you get to do with social media. Almost you kind of get to curate a little bit of who you're following, and the algorithm starts doing its thing, and so I start to kind of get, I think, more like-minded or similar kind of minded content being driven my way.
Yeah, I think it was around the April that I went from always sharing the Inchstones, always sharing the highlight reel, maybe here and there dabbling in the birthdays are hard, typical milestones are hard. And in April this year is when I was armor. I was just it's off, throw it off. I am going to lose myself if I don't share the radical truth. And I think in general, going back to women and mothers, I don't think there's a mother that would listen to the three of us talk if we never mentioned autism and just talked about moms supporting moms. They would be nodding their heads along. Mm-hmm. Because I think that we are wired to stand vigil and to say you're not alone. And I love that, Kat. I believe you. Mm-hmm. I believe you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think part of the origin of our story with autism was, me and my husband walking into our son's pediatrician office saying, hey, we think some things are off. And her saying kind of, that discounting or that dismissiveness of oh, well, he's just so young, kind of going back to what Erica was saying, every kid's on their own timeline, right? That dismissiveness, that discounting, is sort of woven into so many pieces of our story already, right? That the last thing I need is to be surrounded by moms, right? Or, other women who are adding to that. I already get enough of that, as an advocate, right? As a mom to a child who cannot yet speak or communicate on his own behalf really reliably. And so I think that's been the beautiful part about the ability to kind of get connection on social media is being connected to moms who also operate from that perspective, right? Erica has never once said to me, man, you just need to do this.
Have you tried that?
And he's going to stop, and I even posted about it in stories, where I'm hesitant sometimes to share some of the things because in the community that on my Instagram page, sometimes I get overwhelmed with everybody's suggestions. And I do think most people are trying to operate from a place of trying to help, right? I think it's it's hard. And this is going to be the therapist side of me. It is hard for people to make space for really big feelings, right? When I am sad or when I am struggling, people just want to come in and help. And I get that the intention is great, but the impact is not always the same, right? And so we have this distinction between intention and impact, where the impact of it is I get overwhelmed, right?
Well, that's to say our central nervous systems, I think as moms that we are, the lives that the three of us do have in the varying capacities with children with autism, then you add in the amount of information that we get to take in. through media or any sort of media or just, sharing. I mean, our central nervous systems are fried, and it takes a lot. And now, Kat, you talk a lot about this. Move your body. I do like upside down headstand yoga, like all day long, like at least twice a day. Yeah. And I've got a sauna in my basement. And like, if I do not do those things, the healthy oxygenated blood is going to not be pumping. Mm-hmm. It is not going to be able to take in those maybe extra set of, have you tried that, gracefully and with kindness and reception to say, they're just trying to help. Right.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Where do you guys see the community online becoming what you hope it to be? Like, what is your hope for these communities? What do you really see as like, gosh, I want that to happen for us?
So where I think social media is really beautiful for this community is when you have people like the three of us who share online. I think it gives you a little glimpse into their lives and even more into like their values. What do they hold important? Their belief systems. I mean, I feel like that comes through in like your reels and your posts and your personality, and that's great. And you make connections through comments and following each other and that kind of thing. But for me, the really beautiful parts of this have been the DMs, the private connection, mm-hmm. like Kat and I sending some days, 20 voice messages back and forth.
Ridiculous.
That is really like, and Sarah, you and I have had conversations that are private, right? Mm-hmm. But we met on social media because we could see kind of like glimpses into each other's lives and personalities, and you start chatting behind the
trust that I felt that we were able to come to probably quicker than most as another random mom, right?
Right, because you've already kind of seen how they live a little bit. You watch each other's stories, you kind of see their day to day, and you just get a feel for people. And for me, that happened with Kat pretty quickly in our friendship. I mean, to a point where like when I was having a really, really rough week with Lev, like it was just meltdown after meltdown over his clothing all of a sudden. And we didn't know what was going on. And like, diapers, I couldn't get him dressed. I couldn't get him changed and just screaming, which we think was GI related again. But I mean, like you said, your nervous system is like this. And I was at a point of like 5 straight days of this. And I was just like, oh my God, where I think I sent Kat, maybe even a text, not a message. Like, I think I just texted her like, this is really effing hard. Like this is hard, and I'm upset. And her response wasn't, well,
have you tried? Yeah.
It was,
maybe that's the title of this episode. Have you tried listening to the Autism Moms?
Her response was just, I'm sorry. Yes. It is hard. It is hard. And then later she was like, can you get a glass of wine?
Yeah.
And I was like, I already sent my husband to the store. Yeah. And one time, and I hope this is okay, Kat, to share, like Kat and I were talking about the term like profound autism or high support needs. Mm-hmm. And Kat shared with me that sometimes she's not even sure if Jacob is considered.
I know
that because he can be not easy, but when you compare to some children who have bigger struggles, it seems like bigger meltdowns, or like they don't have eloping as much as like I do with Lev.
Yeah.
And I asked Kat, like, well, but can Jacob care for himself in any way, shape, or form? And like, if Jacob were to get lost, could he tell someone how to get home? Like, does he know his phone number? Like, can he do the things that
keep him alive?
His age, typically at this point, could do, right, for safety. And in the future, will he be able to do that? Or will you likely be caring for Jacob well into the future, right? And I was like, you absolutely use the term high support needs. That is high support needs. And so just kind of that validation that comes with those private conversations. Like, she's not going to ask me that online in a comment, right? Like, these are not public conversations we're having, but I've made several connections like that. I think Kat has too, and I'm sure you have, Sarah. Like, those conversations, like, that's where community is being built.
Yeah. And I think it is. Again, I've always, one of the things that in like total retrospect that I've looked back about myself, like literally as a little girl, I love one-on-one conversations. Like, you two are the only exception that I'm going to make right now.
I love one-on-ones, like intimate.
I want like small talk has given me the ick since day one of being Sarah.
Yes.
And even when I'm on a trip with my girlfriends, there's 3 of us named Sarah. So like, it's really confusing. So I'm like, other Sarah, come here. Can we go talk? I want that. I crave that. And I think that that's such a beautiful part of how the community does build in this really specific niche that we never in a million years thought 15 years ago any of us would be in. Yeah. But it goes back to like what we innately know to be true, that like when you see someone, hear someone one-on-one and they go, yep, God, girl, I'm thinking about you all day. How good does that feel? you feel like you can get through it. I want to shout from the rooftops that I believe it's the work that you guys are doing in sharing, that whoever comes to know your orbit or to know or to ask you questions or to send you that DM or to make a comment and you can say back to someone, that's hard. God, I experienced that yesterday. We have, so and so this happened, that again, someone else has either gone through it, that we're not unique. I mean, listen, we're all the star of our own Broadway shows, whether those shows are literally on Broadway or at the crap theater in upstate New York, right? We're still the star. And I think that when we can acknowledge someone else's front stage life and go, I've done that before, it really is. God. Yeah. Did your husband go to the wine store? Did he pick up that bottle for you so you can just take a deep breath?
Yes.
And it's validating.
Yeah. We got takeout, we had wine.
Yeah.
Nervous system calmed down.
Yeah.
You get through it. But I could have sent that message to anybody.
Yeah.
I probably would have gotten love back.
Mm-hmm.
But I needed to send it to somebody who was an autism mom.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to send it to the person who could go, yep, I know. It's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah. And, to think, like you said, Kat, in college, Facebook was only for when we were we were in college, we got it, but that wasn't, my parents didn't have it, Instagram and that, Facebook and then the evolution of that. I mean, it did save me from spiraling in some capacity. I mean, I also had a really wicked postpartum experience with my first child. Even then, that was also another reminder to me that I'm not unique. People survive this. If I can witness and then be witnessed for, that is a luxury. It is such a luxury. And I hope that, that the women and specifically women and caregivers that follow any of us, because we do live busy, full lives. There are people that are in the middle of Kansas that might not have capacity to even go see a friend at church or to see a friend for coffee. That is what this gives. And I just think it's such a luxury. And I know it's downplayed so much. It's given such a bad rep that, I love, Erica, you posted something about loving the Crocs yesterday.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'll never forget that. It spawned in me. I don't even think I sent you a message about this, but it reminded me of an experience I had with Millie, because Millie has these Sesame Street Crocs. And gosh darn it, does that girl freaking find them every year? And now they don't make them anymore. And I have to go on Poshmark to find the new ones. But I forgot that we did struggle 2 years ago with even putting on shoes. And now I'm like, Mills, get your shoes. She always picks the damn Sesame Street Crocs. But that's the thing that you get to witness. And Kat, with showing your self-care and working out and moving your body, do that. But it's also a reminder that it's never the wrong choice. It is never the wrong choice to move your body.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
we're in that, in by necessity, right? Kind of that self-care needs to be a priority. And to the mom who is in the thick of it and doesn't have a community and maybe doesn't have a lot of support and is in, maybe more of
a rural situation or something, removed.
Right. I am very aware that the only, at least in my lived experiences, I've got a husband who's at home with the kids. I've got a husband who also really supports the idea of get out, go. We've got this, so it looks different, but I think just moving your body, it doesn't have to be a Pilates class. Yeah. It doesn't have to be yoga. It doesn't have to be, somewhere beautiful or somewhere expensive. It could literally be a walk in your neighborhood. It could be jumping jacks in your backyard, it just moving your body. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I adore you both. And I love how, again, we did not know each other years ago. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what you were going through, Kat, when Jacob was diagnosed. Erica, I didn't know you when you were having all these, gosh, you had a lot of kids really quickly. I love it.
I was pregnant or breastfeeding for 5 straight years.
I'll be honest.
Non-stop.
What I love most about both of you is that you scream real. I mean, scream in the best way. Who you are, how your families live, your ups, your downs, the words that you choose, the content that you create. It is so freeing. It is so fresh. It is so honest. And that's all I want to connect with online with fellow autism parents, whether it's low support needs, high support needs, child versions, whatever it is. Tell the truth and be honest about what works for you, because you will be the guidebook. And I believe that each of us in our own way get to be the guidebook for even if it's one other person.
And I think that's what drew us to each other, all three of us. It's just the realness. That's what I mean by like you get to see someone, their content kind of lets you know who they are a little bit. And I think it was that realness. I mean, I know it was for sure. Reading all of your writing, Sarah, and watching Kat in her reels, even just the silly stuff, even when
Yes.
I like that, you know? Because I could tell she was being like exactly who she is. And that it is refreshing to
It
like
is.
have that realness. And
like you said, being able to laugh, like too, like one of my favorite quotes ever, doesn't even come from autism or mental health or anything. And stop me if like I sound like a basketball mom here, but I am. Like the Jim Valvano like quote before he passed away of cancer. And it was like, your life, if you can laugh, cry, and think every day, you will have the best life. That's it. And I think that in finding each other online and supporting the communities of women and caregivers that do get to see what we share, if they can laugh and cry and think, I think we are doing the good work and we're our purpose. And I know that you guys are both doing that, and I hope I'm doing the same. Thank you for carving out the very minimal time that we all have to give. That is not, this is the one day I have, but I have a broken door I got to go fix because Mac finally kicked it in. Okay. Yeah. It's okay. It's all right. 100-year-old house, man. That's what I get.
Yeah.
we understand.
Someone else would be like, he did what? And you guys are like,
you see how neither one of us like,
you're like, that tracks.
Like, oh yeah, been there.
That sounds about right.
We flex muscles that we never thought possible. And
Absolutely.
I am wiser and a better person to know that you're both out there doing your work. And I thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah, for having us.
You're so welcome. And until next time on the Inchstones podcast.